Hey everyone, James Labrie from Dream Theater, and you're listening to or watching the podcast Talking Into Infinity with JT and Brian. Enjoy this. These guys are extremely informative. I love their dialogue. I love their interpretation of the songs, who and what we are, what we were going after. They're very accurate in their interpretations and descriptions, and I just think this is a great show, and these guys are doing a stand-up stellar job. So once again, enjoy Talking Into Infinity with JT and Brian.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Talking Into Infinity, a Dream Theater-centric podcast. I am your host, John. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, and the cmsnetwork.com. We are live at those four fine locations every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to click that like button, click that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. If you would like to catch video replays of the show, all of our episodes are available on our YouTube page or the YouTube page of the CMS Network. And if you'd like to catch audio replays of the show, just Google Talking Into Infinity Podcast. Without further ado, let me bring on my very good friend and co-host. He was, I think, about 53 years old in 1997, Mr. Brian Hendrickson. What's going on, man?
I have no idea. Has it been 2 Thursdays already?
It has. We've
already got to pull this comment up right away. Chastity Crawley says, "I've got my rather embarrassing list for albums that I would have bought or that I actually had."
I don't think they can actually be embarrassing, Chastity. I'm sure Brian and I have some that might be a little questionable.
Now, 1997, if you're from Cleveland, that's best remembered as our closest chance before 2016 happened. We were in the bottom of the ninth inning down in Florida. And a lot of people blame Nagy, and a lot of people blame Jose Mesa, but it was really Tony Fernandez that booted that ball. True. And he doesn't get enough of the blame. But yeah, we were like literally, I don't know what. Did we get one out? Were we one out away or two outs away?
One out. We had 2 outs.
We were 1 out away. God,
one out away from a World Series title. Yeah, the first championship our city had seen since 1964, and first World Series since 1954. But thanks, Brian. Way to start the show off on a downer. What the hell?
That's literally the only thing that I remember about that year. But going back, I was looking at a couple movies. So of course, like your favorite of all time, Titanic.
I do love that movie. You can make fun of me all you want.
Okay, so just do a yay or nay when let's do yay or nay. Men in Black.
I've only seen that most of the way through and on cable, but I liked it.
You're already not following directions. Fifth Element.
No,
that was horrible. I almost walked out. I should have. G.I. Jane.
No, definitely a big no.
Oh, I love that. That's a Ridley Scott, or is it Tony Scott?
Tony Scott.
Tony Scott. He's still a good director. Boogie Nights. You gotta like that.
Yeah.
Boogie Nights. Liar, Liar, of course, classic.
I wouldn't say classic, but it's good.
My Background, The Game. Love that movie. David Fincher.
No clue.
No clue? Oh, it's really cool twist. Con Air, of course.
Never saw that.
You never saw Con Air?
No, I just didn't care.
Oh, my God. Face Off. You had to have seen that.
I did not. Didn't care.
Wow. Scream 2?
Yes. Big fan of the Scream movies.
All right, well, we'll stop there. The Lost World, which is not exactly a great sequel. Jurassic Park.
Could be worse. Could be the third one.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what the movie scene was like. So can you explain this topic again? Now, I know I was the one that came up with it, but I can never explain how this is supposed to work.
Sure. Before we do that real quick, did you leave off Austin Powers? Was the first Austin Powers in 97?
I didn't come up on my list, but it might be.
Wow.
If someone else said it did. Oh, yeah. That is the first one. You're right. My bad.
Wow. I hadn't seen that in I don't know how many years, and we literally just watched it at my brother-in-law's place over the weekend. So
is that the one? Yeah. Is it the first one where he's backing up in the car and it's like 5 minutes to back that car?
No, it's like it's not the car. It's like the golf cart thing in the underground bunker.
Right.
Yeah.
I could watch that for like I could just watch that for 2 hours. It's so stupid, but it's still hilarious.
All right. So the concept, basically, we have a year where a Dream Theater record has been released, and we walk into the record store, and this year, for example, is 1997. We walk into the record store and we say, hey, we want Dream Theater's Falling Into Infinity. And the guy says, you can't have it. You got to pick something else. So we pick 8 different records that we would choose to purchase in the event that we cannot purchase the Dream Theater album. So this time is 1997. It is getting progressively more difficult as the years go on, just proving that we're stuck in the past in terms of our musical tastes.
Well, and also to clarify, this is also a looking back to where I don't specifically go. So I'm also looking at bands that I've gotten into since then, and I go back and I look at albums like, oh, man, I missed this one. I'm not strictly going, okay, where was I in 1997? Because then I'd have 2 albums, like literally.
Yeah, right.
So that's kind of full disclosure on that. These are not ones that it's most of mine. Well, I'll say at least half of my list are not ones at the time I was even aware of, but looking back now for sure.
Yeah. Well, Kevin Smith, by the way, speaking of the game, your background, he says, the game, great movie. Great movie once, then you know the ending. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
you can't. It's hard to watch it twice. That's for sure.
Okay. Well, maybe now I have to check it out then. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm with you though. Like I've never done these in the context of okay, I have to pick things for this year that I was only aware of then.
Right.
You know, like I mean, this one is actually pretty close. In fact, I would say it's actually dead on, which means apparently I can at least say I haven't moved past 1997. So,
this was the hardest one for me by far. I mean, this was really, really tough.
Yeah, there was. I actually have a tie, and I'll do that one first when we start here. But there were 2 records that I picked out that I picked them for the same reason, and I was like, I don't know which one of these I would go for, and it depends on my mood. So I have basically like 7 and then and 2 that are a tie for me. So I know that's kind of cheating, but
I ended up with 7 as well. I couldn't there was a couple I thought about putting on there, but in full disclosure, there's only 3 of these I actually bought at some point in time.
Okay. Let me think. I bought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I bought 6 of the 9.
Okay. Well, that's pretty good then. That's definitely better than me.
Yeah. So, so why don't we get started? I will go first, and I'll go with my tie, because then we'll be at 7 and 7. So this kind of depends on my mood, and it's 2 different styles of music, and I guess that's kind of where it comes from. Is like it depends on what I'm feeling like listening to. One of them is like, metal. The other one is definitely, like rap metal. But in a tie at number 8, and I don't really rank them, but these would be at the bottom because it's a tie. I can't decide what my. Do you have real quick before I go on? Do you have a definitive number 1?
No, these aren't. I'm not even going to consider these ranked because this was rough.
Okay. Yeah. Kale says I have 5, but not in any particular order. So yeah, I have 2 that I couldn't. I don't know which one I would put at number 1, so I'll save those for last. But anyway, getting back to my tie, the first one was released on June 3rd of 97. The other one was released less than a month later. I have Bruce Dickinson's Accident of Birth, and Limp Bizkit's $3 Bill, y'all. So, yeah. And basically they're tied because both records, to me, the songs kind of blur together. There's not a lot of standout stuff. Like the good songs are really good, but the songs that aren't as good are still pretty close. There's not a lot of highs and lows on these records. $3 Bill, y'all. I know I really like Counterfeit. I like Stuck. I mean, everybody likes Faith just because it's like a cool version of that tune. But it's like if I'm into something a little more modern and kind of bouncy and whatever, I'm gonna go for I would go for $3 Bill Y'all. But if I'm going for some, straight up pretty much metal, definitely Accident of Birth. Are you familiar with Accident of Birth?
So I tried listening to both of that and I think The Chemical Wedding, and I just never really got into them. But now, unlike you, I may go back and actually check this out.
Okay. Metal Person J. Metal Person J says Accident of Birth kicks ass. That's in my top 10. See, Metal Person J, I was going to run this by Brian, so I'll run it by you too. This record sounds to me, and I would have to look at the release dates. I want to say that the Fight record, like Small Deadly Space, came out earlier than Accident of Birth, but Accident of Birth always reminded me of, Bruce Dickinson's answer to Rob Halford in Fight. It was like modern and heavy and kind of like more, groove metal-ish. And so that it really reminded me of a Fight record. Like it was kind of like his answer to Fight. I mean, are you familiar with either of these records enough to comment on that? Or?
Oh yeah, I love the first two Fight records. I think, is that all there is?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love those, and I have the live Halford Insurrection, or is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I have that too. Actually, I might have got that from you. I borrowed it or something. It was you or Bob I borrowed it from.
I never owned Insurrection, but I owned the Fight records.
Okay, but yeah, I love the two Fight records. So you're talking kind of like a chunky, sort of groovy.
Yeah.
But sounds rather than 80s sounds, a little bit 80s, 90s mixed together kind of.
Yeah, definitely.
The guitars, yeah.
It's definitely a Pantera influence, So I mean, it's cool. I like both records, but they're kind of like, records you put on like when you're kind of going for a vibe, and you're not really trying to listen song for song, and really, it's like something you're into that kind of headspace. You can put it on, and you don't have to listen to that. Like it's kind of you can focus on whatever else you're doing. K.O. McLeish, thank you for letting me know. He says Small Deadly Space was 1995. I thought it was earlier. So. Metal Person J says, I think it's more Bruce Dickinson showing the young new metal punks how it should be done, i.e. with solos. I will say it is a bit of a peak and valley record. Yeah, it kind of blends together for me, I think, the songs on that one. Same thing with $3 Bill Y'all. Like it's got some really cool grooves. $3 Bill Y'all to me is interesting because knowing what they turned into, you can hear you could definitely hear that basically someone listened to that record and was like, all right, let's put him with a big name producer and see what comes out. And you basically got the next record, Significant Other. So it's kind of interesting to listen to in that respect. But yeah, so that is my tie. Accident of Birth and $3 Bill Y'all.
I loved the first Bruce Dickinson solo album, Tattooed Millionaire. It had an 80s vibe to it, but the songs I thought were great.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I liked his solo stuff. I thought it was cool. The only thing it was kind of interesting because I didn't think the production it wasn't bad, but it was kind of like you would think somebody that at that point had the money and the clout could have gotten a little bit better production for his solo records. But, All right. So what do you have? You said you have 7, so we each have 7 left. So what is first on your list?
So first on my list is a band called Gamma Ray. Are you familiar with them?
Oh, yeah,
at all?
yeah.
Okay.
I've heard a little bit, but I'm not overly familiar, but I know who they are.
Okay, so this is the 5th album, Somewhere Out in Space, and this is a full disclosure. I knew nothing that this band even existed until probably 8 to 10 years ago or so.
Okay.
This is the band Kai Hansen from Halloween formed when he left Halloween after the first 2 albums. This is the second album that Kai Hansen found out does lead vocals on. The original singer for Gamma Ray was Rolf Scheepers, he's the guy from the bald dude from Primal Fear.
That's right, Primal Fear. Okay.
Yep. And basically, this album, I mean, this is Dragon Force before Dragon Force came into existence. I mean, it's just blistering double bass symphonic metal. All the great elements of the original Halloween in there too. The song titles are great, like Men, Martians, and Machines, Valley of the Kings, The Winged Horse. It's 63 minutes of majestic metal euphoria. I mean, it sounds very much like Halloween, and as it would with Kai Hansen on it. And
yeah.
You can't go wrong with pretty much most of these albums. I mean, the songs they tend to run together a little bit. Kind of cool on the second song, the Men, Martians, and Machines, when they do the very beginning intro is the do 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 the Close Encounters of the Third Kind. They play that little riff to start it. It's like a little bit of trivia there if you're listening. But yeah, I put that in there. Just I don't know if it's their best album, but if I'm going into '97 and I'm looking for to fill my albums, I definitely would pick that up.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm not overly familiar with them. A lot of those bands, like I know them, and when I listen to them, I get into like Arch Enemy and Primal Fear and stuff like that. Like, I just don't seek them out, I guess. But when they come on, I'm like, yeah, this is cool. So,
dude, Metal Person J, Gamma Ray.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my number one.
Yeah, he said, I wish Somewhere Out in Space took over the world.
Nice.
So the first one on my list, again, I don't have them ranked, but I'll leave my two. I have a third one that I can say for later. But this record of mine came out on March 25th of 1997. And if I remember right, I had its predecessor on a previous list. I have The More Things Change, the sophomore effort from Machine Head. And this is just a kick-ass record, I think. It's, it's not as thrashy as Burn My Eyes. It's a little more of a slow, but it's definitely like heavy. I mean, like songs like 10-Ton Hammer and Take My Scars and, Struck a Nerve, Bay of Pigs, like stuff like that. It's just a heavy, heavy record. And it's a progression from the first one. Again, I think, you see him going into a little bit more of a groove, direction, as opposed to the thrash direction they started with. So that's cool. Machine Head is just a cool band. They only have a few records I'm really not into. Especially once they started getting into the more like classic metal sounding stuff on albums like what's it, the Blackening, and then the Locust one or whatever. Like I'm not up with the names, but I'm familiar with them enough.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, this is just like, this record is just obnoxiously heavy, and I mean, it gets sludgier in the sludgy parts, and it's, man, oh man, it's just a really cool album to listen to, especially because it mixes very well with the first record, Burn My Eyes. I think they're very complementary to each other. So, stylistically, like I say, one's faster, one's slower. So you can kind of blend them together nicely and get, a good solid 2 hours of kick-ass, like kind of more modern sounding metal. So I really like it. The More Things Change. Are you familiar with this one at all?
I believe I've heard a few of the songs off of it, not as much as Burn My Eyes. But I love, and I don't know the name of the newest Machine Head, but I actually loved Locust. I love Blackening. The one right after that I liked, and then I think they did two where it was like kind of like I don't know what they were doing, but
yeah, that Catharsis record was shit.
Oh yeah, that was that. Yeah, that was it. But this new one, man, it starts out. There's a couple 10-minute just. I mean, there's so much intricate stuff going on in it.
Yeah.
On some of these newer albums, and like this dude really sits down and takes time and maps these out, man. The guitar parts are just, some of them are just phenomenal. They're real dissonant and heavy sounding, but catchy and melodic at the same time, which we've talked before is very difficult to achieve.
Yeah. And for me, like I like metal a lot, but there's not very many like screamer bands that, I get into. I have to have some melody in my vocals, and the obvious exception is Pantera. Is probably my third favorite band behind Van Halen and Dream Theater. But I like Machine. I really like Rob's voice. It's like it's heavy. He's like got the nuts to it, and it doesn't sound fake. It's kind of like Corey Taylor. Like, I'm not a Slipknot fan or anything, but I like when the guys, if they are screaming, I can tell it's not some like kind of upper register, like they're kind of forcing their throat to. No, it's just a guttural. You can tell, like, if this guy's going to yell at somebody, that's exactly how it's going to sound. And
Right.
So I like that a lot. So I like his voice. So that's one of the reasons I dig it. But yeah, you're spot on with the guitar. He writes some cool stuff. I mean, he got into that like the pinch harmonic kind of thing. Yep. Like early on, and so that was kind of like their signature thing, which is cool. So I dig it. So yeah, The More Things Change by Machine Head is on my list. What do you have next on yours?
You might think I tripped over myself to come up with this one. Our Lady Peace, Clumsy.
Oh, the first joke of the night. There it is.
Yeah.
It only took you 19 minutes.
So much like Volbeat, Love, Hate, Avenge Sevenfold, and maybe Enough's Enough, you either love or you hate the singer of this band. There's not going to be an in-between. The singer's name is Rain Maeda. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Okay.
From the opening track, Superman's Dead was a hit, to Carnival, to introspective song called 4 a.m., Brilliant, brilliant title track. I absolutely love the title track, Clumsy. Very cool song called Hello, Oscar. You know, Our Lady Peace, this is like it's a mixtape that's equal parts Flaming Lips, Foo Fighters, and maybe some Cheap Trick. The best way I can describe this album particularly, because I believe they did get sort of more polished later, but this is like garage pop.
Okay.
And I don't know, there is a definite groove. I love the way the bass guitar sounds on almost all their albums, but especially this album. It really comes through. I love the rhythm section a lot. There's just I don't know. There's a very cool thing and a cool vibe to this band. It's super unique. Nobody else sounds like them, not even one iota. And I just think it's a great band. I got to see them open for, I think it was Bon Jovi at Blossom, which sounds like a weird, kind of opener. But this was also in the '90s too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just a great band, and they've kind of stuck it out, and they're still hanging around, I think.
Yeah, I first saw them, I want to say it was 95, because I remember they opened for Van Halen at one point. So that's when I saw them. And I'm only familiar with one song, and I couldn't tell you what it is. It was one of their big hits. I think that's how they actually landed the Van Halen tour. But, yeah, I'm not really familiar with these guys. Like, I can't say that, I love or hate the singer, because I'm just not familiar enough. It's just one of those, a lot of those 90s bands never really grabbed me. There just wasn't a lot of energy there, I think. It was just kind of like, yeah, the songs are good, but there's nothing to like that stands out.
I could put together probably an Our Lady Peace, probably like a top 8. It'd be like, wow, these are really good songs, but the rest of it you'd be like, just knowing you. But they do have enough material to fill up a solid 8 to 10 really good playlist, if that's your thing, just making some playlists here and there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely check it out. I think, my tastes have kind of progressed over the years. I mean, I'm like 25 years behind everybody else, but
right.
Better late than never, right? I mean, what the hell? So, Johan Alexanderson, good to see you, man. He says, speaking of screamer bands, In Flames' Horacle is a great album from 1997. I have not heard that one. Are you familiar with that In Flames record?
I am talking about late to the party on a band. I sort of started following them 10-15 years ago, well, more like 5 to 10 years ago. Absolutely love the new album. The new album is the first full album of theirs I've heard, where front to back, man, just super hooky, super great riffs, great musicianship too. So, but I would know nothing about that album.
Okay, well, we'll have to check that out, Johan. Thank you for the suggestion. All right, so you have Our Lady Peace. I'm going to skip a couple because I'm saving them for last. My next record is from another band I really get into. I think you do as well. But this is a record from their catalog that I think is kind of like the redheaded stepchild in a way. This is also an extremely heavy record. I mean, for this band, it is the heaviest record they've ever done, in my opinion. It was released on June 1st of 1997. That would be Demonic by Testament. This is their answer to the song Dog-Faced Gods on the Low record, if I have my Testament history correct. They would play Dog-Faced Gods live, and people were all into Chuck Billy's Cookie Monster voice, so they're like, hey, let's do a whole record of Cookie Monster. And so you get Demonic, which, is, again, a little bit in the slower vibe, but it is, boy, is it heavy. I really like the record's a little top heavy for me, though. I will say, like, my 3 favorite songs are in the first like 5 tunes or something, but it's, I love Demonic Refusal. The Burning Times is awesome. John Doe's cool. I mean, there's some. The cool thing to me is that there's some different riffing going on. Like it's not just the like the straight like down picking, articulated right hand stuff. there's some really kind of like it's like this groove kind of, but with a really cool like vibe on the drums and stuff like that. Like it's it is is it heavy. So, and I don't mind the Cookie Monster vocals because Chuck Billy's another voice that I absolutely love in metal. I'll never forget the first time I ever saw him live. Well, actually, I should say the second time I ever saw him live, and Metal Person Jay brings this up. He says, Dog-Faced Gods is indeed on Low. Low is underrated. I actually opened for Testament on the Low tour. So that was actually kind of cool. Although I think it was demonic now that I think about it, but it's a little place. You remember Ron's Crossroads in Akron, Brian?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That little tiny place, we opened for Testament there. And I will never forget going in, like when we were hauling in our gear, and I went in the little bathroom to take a piss, and this absolute gorilla of a dude comes walking in, and I'm like, out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, who the fuck is this giant dude? I happen to look over, I'm like, oh my God, it's fucking Chuck Billy. I was like, holy shit, that guy is big, dude.
What is he, like 6'5" or something?
Oh, well, and he's tall, but he's also wide and shit. Like,
well, his arms are like,
yeah, he is
too.
a big fucking dude. But I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen them live, but they are so goddamn powerful. Now put that in a tiny little club, it was amazing. But yeah, Metal Person Jay, I love Low. That is such a kick-ass record, man. I love Low. But back to Demonic. Again, it's really heavy. It's got some really cool riffs that are really different from a lot of the stuff, in the rest of their catalog. So I really dig it. It's weird because I usually don't lean towards the really heavy side of things in terms of the bands that I like, but on my list tonight, I've got some heavy stuff. So, and this is one of them. And again, this record never gets talked about. I think this was the one that, fans were kind of like, yeah, they love it or hate it. If you don't mind the Cookie Monster vocal, then you like Demonic. If you don't like it and you wanted some more of the melodic Chuck Billy, then you're like, skip. So let's get to The Gathering. But yeah,
did they have Dave Lombardo on that, or was he on The Gathering?
No, he was on The Gathering. I did look that up. This was actually Gene Hoglan.
Okay.
So the Atomic Clock made his first appearance in.
That's his nickname.
Yeah, that's his nickname, the Atomic Clock.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, this was his first appearance with the band, and
there's definitely an L in there, right? Just making sure.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, are you familiar with this record at all? Because I know this is pretty heavy for you, and it's it's a very overlooked record.
I was kind of totally out of that whole sort of period. Like, I'm familiar with the first 2-3 Testament albums, and then like the last 3 or 4, and then the middle I was kind of totally out of. And I think it was we were going somewhere maybe, and you were playing a live album they had.
Yeah, probably live at the Fillmore.
Okay, yeah, and that had, I think, a lot of songs from those eras, and I was like, man, these are great tunes I'd never heard before.
Yeah. Cale McLeish says, Gene Hoglan is a beast. Yeah, he is. I wish he was still in the damn band. That sucks that he had to leave. But at least they had, Dave Lombardo for all of, 38 seconds. They got him back in the band. I just want to mention that he's like focused on all these other projects he's doing, and they all suck. I'm like, good Lord. Like, I mean, just my opinion, but.
Well, we play. So I the other day, Bob and I at work, I said, you have to check this out. So I had Spotify on. I lasted 2.5 minutes on Dave Lombardo's solo album.
Oh, it's awful, isn't it? Oh, it's terrible.
And then I was like, okay, let's go to the next song. And I was just like, I mean, I'm all for like experimental and whatever, but I don't know. I really don't understand. It just sounds like somebody was just playing whenever they felt like playing to whatever. And
that's exactly what I felt like too.
And I mean, that can be freeing and liberating, and maybe it can sound good, but this time it didn't work. So,
well, I would have to assume that he probably wasn't really worried about any critical reaction, because with a guy like him, his fan base knows him strictly basically as the guy from Slayer. So I don't think they're really interested in him experimenting and doing all this other like goofy stuff. They're just like, look, man, just go play double bass, and I want to hear, Angel of Death, and they don't really want to hear all that other stuff that he does. And yeah, so I would have to assume he really didn't give a shit. He's like, look, I want to do this. I'm just releasing it. People like it, whatever. Like,
right.
It's got to be. So, Discuss Metal Joe, good to see you, man. This guy is famous because he fixed my internet this week. So thank you, Joe, for that. You are a legend on TII and the Nerf Herder Council. He says, this is a hard question. Science or coal chamber? I don't want to pick. If I have to pick coal chamber or Incubus, I'm going to go Incubus. What about you?
As far as coal chamber, I know absolutely nothing about them. I never have. So I guess I'll take Incubus.
Okay. Yeah, I was never really a big coal chamber guy. Like, they're okay, but there's some Incubus stuff I like, and I like that. I don't know the guy's last name, but Brandon, whatever his name is, the singer. I like his voice. I think he's a really good singer, and it had some cool melodies to it, man. It was interesting. It was like, obviously Hoobastank ripped them off, but I really love the first two Hoobastank records. So, all right, so I have Demonic. What is next on your list?
Well, right in that same genre, we have the band with the biggest misnomer ever for a band moniker, and that's Ben Folds 5.
Wow.
With Whatever and Ever Amen. And the reason, obviously, is there's only 3 people in the band. So, yeah, man. I mean, so if you go back to 1997, grunge is in full gear, I guess, or maybe it's tailing away. I don't know exactly. Would there be a worse idea than going to a record company saying, we've got a band that's got a piano, drums, and bass. What can you do with us? Well, it turns out Ben Folds, man, I mean, in my opinion, is incredibly gifted, underrated to some degree in my book. He's an absolute scholar student of Billy Joel, Elton John, Burt Bacharach, Beach Boys, Steely Dan school of what I consider extremely sophisticated pop songwriting. It's very, very difficult to do and to sound catchy and to do well. The biggest single off of there is Brick, which is a hauntingly catchy song.
Okay.
The ultimate breakup anthem, Song for the Dumped. I love that song.
Song for the Dumped, nice.
Yeah, it's the chorus is, give me my money back, you bitch. That's literally what he's singing over there.
That's awesome.
Right, and he also, double respect for a guy that he did a cover of "Get Your Hands Off of My Woman, Mother Effer." Have you ever heard his? He did a cover of "The Darkness," that song, Ben Folds. It was absolutely amazing. Oh, dude, it's so good. There's a cool jazzy coffee house type song called "Selfless, Cold, and Composed," and I don't know, man. This is just a great. I always want to see this guy live. I have yet to do that, so next time he comes someplace, hopefully like an Agora or a House of Blues or Music Hall or something, I'm going to be there. Just an awesome, great band, great songwriter, and refreshing, breath of fresh air,
So this is when it was still Ben Folds 5. This is before he just Ben Folds.
Yeah. Yep.
I wonder. So did he just basically decide I'm solo now? Is that where the change came from? Or?
I don't know if when he goes out now he still brings a band and it's maybe not the same guys or what. I don't know if it's just on the piano. I honestly can't totally comment on that. And in full disclosure, past this album, I probably only know 3 or 4 songs. I haven't stayed all that current with it, but everything I do, I always hear from him, and I love hearing his interviews and hearing him talk and stuff. He's just a really, really interesting guy.
Okay. Well, in the chat we have long time no see. Gibson Les Paul is back. Good to see you, man. He's having a chat with Metal Person Jay. Kale McLeish has a comment. He says, since you're bringing up Lombardo, I'll bring up my number 4. Cryptic Writings by Megadeth. Commercial AF, sure, but there are some fun songs on there. Kale, I bring up your comment because that is the next one on my list. June 17th of 97, Cryptic Writings by Megadeth. I mentioned production on Accident of Birth. Oh, it's Sean Faust. What's up, Sean? Good to see you, man. How you been? So I bring up the production on Accident of Birth, saying, okay, well, how do you not have a little better? And I'm gonna use that again for Cryptic Writings because the guitars suck. They sound so thin. I mean, it's not good. And I don't know how the hell Mustaine let the record out sounding like that. That being said, Kale's right. There are some really cool songs on there. Almost Honest is one of my favorites. I like Mastermind. Like it's just a weird kind of thing. Secret Place is awesome. She Wolf is great. The one song that I've always had an issue with is FFF. It is such it's like a Motor Breath, Kill 'Em All, just complete and total ripoff. You know, I mean, I remember the very first time I heard the record, I was driving around delivering pizza, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" Like, this is just Motor Breath, dude. Like, but other than that, yeah, this is a really good record, man. It's solid. Unfortunately, it was the swan song for the best lineup of Megadeth, the Marty Friedman and Nick Menza era. Kale McLeish says FF Motor Breath. Nice. But yeah, so unfortunately this was the last record featuring Marty Friedman and Nick Menza. But yeah, it's a lot of cool songs, but it sucks that Mustaine decided when he did Risk to take the weird songs and use that as the direction for Risk instead of the cooler ones like Secret Place and stuff like that. Metal Person Jay says Trust is a great song. That song should have been as big as Symphony of Destruction. I am going to disagree with you on that, Metal Person Jay. I think Trust was just a complete, attempt at an Enter Sandman. I mean, the riff is almost in the same damn position. It's just, it's good. I mean, it's not a bad song, but Kale says Vortex is a hell of a guitar jam, though. Yeah, I will agree on that one too. Like I say, this is a good record, man. I was happy with it. Obviously, I think. Can we agree, Brian, on something that if you're going to rank the Friedman Menza records, you might be able to rank them easily in order of release? I mean, you're going to go Rust in Peace, followed by Symphony, followed by Euthanasia, followed by Cryptic Writings, and Euthanasia is close to Countdown, but it's still not as good. I think. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I guess I got confused. I was thinking that this was the first one without them, but yeah, this is definitely the lowest of the four. So, and not to jump ahead, but this I'm pretty sure this is the only one we're going to have together on the list.
Okay,
I think. So yeah, Cryptic Writing showed up on mine. I have a note in here. Is it possible? And I'm actually going to agree with Metal Person Jay about Trust. I think can an album possibly have maybe its best, most underrated song, even though it's a hit, but also the dumbest thing they've ever done in their entire life? And it's not FFF. It's Have Cool, Will Travel. I mean, how mad is Gene Simmons that he didn't think of this atrocity of a lyric before Dave did? Dude, I don't even mind the music, and it's kind of, it tries to be a metal blues thing here and the harmonica and stuff, and I don't even mind that, but the vocals, oh my God, the words, I mean, it's just so stupid. Like, it is so beyond hokey. I have no idea how that even was able to get by.
Yeah.
It looks like a shirt like my nephew has, have you seen these shirts these kids wear? It says pizza, video games, YouTube, repeat or something. You know what I mean? It's like it's something a kid would wear. And it's funny if a kid wears it. So a kid in 1970 or 1980, Have Cool, Will Travel. So stupid, man.
That is hilarious.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just so dumb. I can't stand that song. But man, I mean, Trust, Almost Honest, Use the Man. You brought up Masterminds, great. She Wolf. I also kind of disagree on the guitars because I kind of thought, if I was reading right, what they wanted he kind of wanted this to sort of be more of a hard rock record. And to me, the production and guitars reflect that. Now, I can see if you want full-blown metal, and that's what you're used to, you didn't get it, but I don't know. I don't mind the production on it.
I'm going to disagree completely. You can have a hard rock production without having shitty sounding guitars. I mean, how many bands at that time had dude, I know it's I'm playing favorites here, but I mean, Eddie Van Halen had a monstrous guitar tone, and it didn't sound thin or weak. I mean, the tones on this one just sound terrible. It's just not good. I mean, especially when you put it up against other stuff like Euthanasia had a fantastic guitar sound. Countdown was good, and I mean, just not. I
don't know.
I didn't like it.
It felt more live and analog to me, so I don't know. Maybe that's why. But
all right. We got a hell of a debate going in the chat. Cale McLeish says that the ranking should go Countdown, Rust in Peace, Euthanasia, Cryptic Writings. I think, Cale, I don't know how seriously I can take you if you have Rust in Peace behind anything they've ever done. Rust in Peace is like one of the top 2 metal records ever. One of the top 3, I will say. Gibson Les Paul says Euthanasia beats Countdown in my opinion. I would accept that. I think they're close. I could understand that argument. So Euthanasia is behind Rust in Peace for him. Metal Person J says Rust, Euthanasia, Countdown, Cryptic Writings. And then Cale completely agrees with you on that lyric. He says, Brian, you are 1,000% correct. Mamas pack their lunches, kiddies pack their guns. Like, okay. Yeah. Thankfully, though, Mustaine does not have a lot of stinkers in terms of lyrics. So my next one after we get to, well, actually, you just went with yours, so I will go with my next one. Speaking of shitty lyrics, but an album that I really, really like, that for some reason this band has continued to bury, I am going to go with a record by an absolute legend of heavy metal. It was released on October 28th of 1997. I'm going with Jugulator by Judas Priest. I love the super heavy direction they went with. I thought Ripper sounded really great mixed in with the style. But again, the lyrics are just absolute shit. They're just, we are all dead meat. Like, I was listening to that. I'll never forget listening to that record the first few times through and going, this rocks. And then the lyrics come in like, ugh. It was just this mix of, yeah. Like, oh. Gibson Les Paul says much preferred Demolition.
Right.
See, Gibson.
How do we ban him from the team?
Yeah,
permanently?
Right. Yeah, Gibson. I'm gonna have to really disagree on that one, dude.
That is a steaming pile of turd Demolition.
Yeah, that's not a good one. But yeah, I mean Jugulator, dude. I thought the riffs are really cool. Ripper does some great vocal stuff. Again, it's just like heavy and it again, it's kind of cheesy, like, some of the sound effects, like I love the song Death Row, but that, I don't know how familiar you are with the record, but when it's got that, sound effect of the guy in the prison taking the phone call, you hear the phone ring and he goes, Death Row? What? What's that? Oh, I'll tell him. Oh, no stay? I'll tell him. Like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like, I don't know how these legendary bands let shit like that pass on their record. Like, how do you listen to that and go, yeah, that sounds cool? Like, no, it really doesn't.
Is that like the intro for Exodus Deranged? Do you ever hear that? Where the guy's like, I like a nice salad, baked potato.
Right. Right. Gibson Les Paul just totally nailed it. He said, listen to it on Live Meltdown 98. No intro there. Yes. That's, speaking of records they bury, Live Meltdown is fucking amazing. And you can't find that anywhere. You cannot find that anywhere. It's so good though.
So that's all Ripper?
Yeah. It's like a double disc live record with Ripper, and it's absolutely killer. It's amazing. And you can't find it. I actually have it on CD. I kept it and I really liked it, and then when things started going away, like going to streaming, I noticed I couldn't find it anywhere. God damn. Like I was like, oh cool, at least I've got this. But yeah, there's a song like Bloodstained is awesome, Death Row is awesome, Burn in Hell is really cool. I really, really have always been a huge fan of the closing track. It's called Cathedral Spires. And like, oh, we're so tired. Like it's got this really cool like melody to it, and I really like a lot of the songs on this one. Again, the lyrics are stupid, but the music is fucking great, man. So yeah, I've got Jugulator on here. I don't know if you're familiar with that one or not, but
yeah, I did some time with that back in the past. I love the guitars like you. I love Scott Travis drumming with them. Ever since when he took over, there's just something about it that's like it just doesn't feel like Priest. And I don't know if it's because he's trying so hard to want to be Robert Halford, even though he's his own guy.
Just call him Robert Halford.
Yeah.
Robert Halford.
Sorry, Bob. He's trying really hard to be Bob.
Nice.
No, but I don't know. There's just something, and even he finally admitted, like, look, I can't pretend to be someone else. This is Rob's band, whatever.
Yeah.
In the end, it ends up being almost like the movie Rockstar, right? You can't try to be someone else ultimately. So I don't know. I wish the songs were a little stronger, or just call it Ripper Owens solo project or something.
Call it KK's Priest.
No, call it anything but that, which is the exact opposite of this. But yeah, I may go back and check out a couple of those songs now that you brought it up.
I dig it. Metal Person J says, I don't like the Ripper live album. They tune everything down a full step and it fucks up the back catalog. Okay.
Oh, really? Tuned down a full step?
It's heavy, yeah. Metal Person J, like, I'm not going to disagree with you. I think a lot of people have that problem, and you're not wrong. Personally, I'm one of those people that I think it's cool when a band does that. Hearing classic stuff like Heavied Up has always been really cool to me because it's like a fresh kind of, and honestly, to me, some of the old Priest stuff, when they're like, oh, this is a metal band, like, it doesn't sound very metal to me. So when you drop it down and you got Ripper like just bellowing over it like that, I'm like, okay, now this sounds metal to me. So I would never say that I disagree with you. I don't mind when the band does that. I think it's pretty cool. So, and there he is. He's like Metal Person J. He says, I hate when bands do that. Yeah, and Discuss Metal Joey's right. He says, at Metal Person J, agreed, but I challenge that everyone did that for a time. It was how they tried to, quote unquote, fit in the 90s. Okay. Yeah, that's yeah. I think so too. Like I said, Joe, I mean, I mentioned a couple of records earlier that, a band like kind of slowed down, went to a more groove. It's like grunge is like kind of dominant, and these bands just went heavier. It was kind of like a middle finger. Like, okay, well, we're not giving up, and we're just going to get heavier. Like, if you're not into it, we're going to make it even worse on you. So,
well, they went through a period where they couldn't sell 2,000-3,000 seaters. Like,
yeah.
I mean, they were about as low as you could possibly get as a band that was just massive worldwide at one point.
Yep. Metal Person J at Discuss Metal Joe. Yeah, and that shit aged like Lindsay Lohan. Gibson Les Paul, and then we'll get to your next one here, Brian. But he says old Judas Priest stuff isn't very heavy, so tuning down sounds much better. Yeah. All right, so I have Jugulator. What is next on your list? I believe I have 3 left. Yeah, I've got my top 3 left.
I think that's what I've got. Well, in honor of our buddy Discuss Metal Joe, we went on his show. We did almost 2 hours on this band, Symphony X.
Yep, that's my honorable mention.
So this is the second album with Russell Allen, Divine Wings of Tragedy. One song on here they still play live on. I think they've played it probably damn near every tour. Sea of Lies, great song.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Pharaoh and Medusa. It's a classic power prog metal gems. This is also the first time you get like one of these massive epic opuses, which is the title track. It comes at the end. 7 different parts. And I love how it ends up in this the very last movement. It's called Paradise Regained. And it's got some of those beautiful Allen powerful vocal lines over this kind of a ballady piano guitar melody foundation thing. And I might end up moving this. I don't know when we would ever do this or if we would, but if we ever did a Symphony X ranking the albums, I might move this up higher than I might have originally had it.
Okay.
But this album too is, I think it's the second album with Russell. They're really starting to round into form and what's going to be, the basis of their sound, and everything just sounds tighter and fatter and has a little bit more of a hook to it. The riffs are chunkier, and just a great album. Still sounds great even this many years later.
I like this record. I think it's kind of like you can hear what's coming a little bit later on the albums actually are that have good production. But again, it's got kind of that tinny production, as I mentioned, when we did, discography discussion, we talked about the catalog. That's my one complaint, is that they just seemed like they never, the production was kind of crappy for a while, and this record is better. It's not great. But I have this one as an honorable mention for me. So, I mean, it's definitely a great record, and if you had to pull one of the ones that I just mentioned off, and say, no, you're taking the Divine Wings of Tragedy instead. I'd be like, okay, it's not really a loss. So It's definitely a good record. Like I say, Sea of Lies is always the one that I turn to as well. So good call on that one, man. All right, so I'm in my top 3, and this next one is an album that when it was released, I couldn't stand. It was a complete left turn from what I thought I was going to get. I was really annoyed by it, and as the years have gone by, I've gained a lot more appreciation for it. Speaking of bad production, I really like the production on this one because it's very natural. You always use the word analog. This is a very analog production. It's spacious. It's big. And it is something recorded by one of my all-time favorite singers, one of my top 2 all-time favorite singers, released on May 20th of 1997.
Dude, 26 years later, you're finally getting into Generation Swine.
Oh, shut up. I'm gonna kick you off the show permanently for even mentioning that. We don't joke about that hunk of shit on here. Oh, Brandon. No, May 20th of 1997, I have Marching to Mars by Sammy Hagar. So
I knew this was coming.
Yeah. Well, dude, honestly, it's so weird. Like, I did not like this record at all when it came out. I was like, he's supposed to rock. And a lot of this is kind of funky, but as my tastes have kind of matured over the years, just a teeny bit, like I said earlier, I've really appreciated it more. And the production, like I say, is wide open. It sounds big, but it's, not cluttered and overly done. It's cool, and there's some great songs on here, man. Little White Lies is a cool tune, and the video with the chimpanzee banging on the guitar was just a hilarious "F you Eddie Van Halen" moment. Who Has the Right is a beautiful song. Both Sides Now is cool. Man, it's just, there's some really cool stuff on here. And Sammy's voice is just, he does so much stuff on here that I'd never heard from him. He does really quiet, whispery thing, and then he does the big old Van Halen screams. Like, it's a varied and really kind of eclectic record, I think. And I want to say it's Mickey Hart that he was working with. He met him on a plane. He was going to retire after Van Halen, or at least not do anything for a long time. Mickey Hart's like, no, you make music. Let's go make a record. Next thing you know, he's making a record. So, but yeah, it's something that it's grown on me as the years have gone by. And because admittedly, I don't like a lot of the Sammy solo stuff. It's just stock, boring pop rock. And this one's a little different, and I dig it. So I'm interested to see if you like this one, or if you like any of the Sammy solo stuff, because you have a much more broad taste than I do. So
I like a lot of the older stuff. As far as this album, I've only heard the last 2 songs, and I totally love them. Amnesty is Granted, I think, is one of the most amazing ballads ever. And I love the title track, Marching to Mars. So those are legit the only 2 songs I've heard off of them, but I think they're both great.
Okay. Well, you haven't heard it, so we'll move on to yours. What is next? You have what, 3 left or 2?
I think I have 2.
Okay. All right. So what do you have next on your list?
Okay. So is there a guy that I bash more on this show than Yngwie Malmsteen?
Ooh.
For what I want him to do and what I know he's capable of. This might be the last thing he did that was of true quality.
Okay.
It's 1997's Facing the Animal.
Gibson Les Paul called it right as you said it.
Yeah, first of all, the production on this sounds better than anything he's done in the last 10 years. And this album's 26 years old. I don't know what it is. I love to crucify this guy because he's insanely stubborn and his ridiculous ego when it comes to not using singers anymore. He has a guy singing on here called Mats Levin or Mats Levine. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. But I guess he's the singer now in Vandenberg, and did some stuff with them. He's also done some stints with TSO and a band some people may be familiar with. I'm sure you're not, but Candlemass, you might have heard the name.
Oh, yeah, I know Candlemass.
Okay. I love this guy's voice. This guy has the high range but the raspiness, so I'll rank him 3rd behind Jeff Scott Soto and Joe Lynn Turner. As far as this is the 3rd best singer. And Yngwie even did a couple of albums with Ripper. The problem is the production on him blows ass. And it's like they could have been great, but he just doesn't want to get a producer. But yeah, man, the opening song, Braveheart, it's just a perfect Malmsteen's classic sludging metal beast type song. you can't take the 80s out of this guy. You know, there's songs like Another Time, and there's a ballad. It's called Like an Angel. And lyrically, Yngwie, like when he writes songs about love or making love, they're about as cringy as it gets. But I mean, who cares? The music's cool. And then when he puts his mind to just doing the metal shred fest, there's this song called Poison in My Veins and Heathens from the North. And I don't know, this is just an album that I knew it existed, but had never really listened to it or given it a chance. And I'm like, if there's ever a chance for Yngwie to redeem himself on the show, this will be a good opportunity to see if this album is good. And I actually really dig this album.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I'm not familiar with any of the Yngwie stuff. He's just knowing that the guy is such a cock. If there's somebody I know is just a complete jerk, it turns me off immediately. And I unfortunately with Yngwie, like I've heard his playing and stuff, and it's also such a weird word to use, but it's so masturbatory. But I don't know. Everything I've heard is like, hey, check out all these like fucking sweep arpeggios I can do. It's like, okay, so I got to listen to some of the more mellow stuff to see what he does when he's playing with some feel.
There's an interesting comment. Gibson Les Paul talks about the singers. Mike Viscara, number 1, followed by Mark Bowles, then Matt Slevin.
Okay.
All right, well, you can't rank those two ahead of Joe Lynn Turner and Jeff Scott Soto for starters.
Yeah, Jeff Scott Soto is like amazing.
If you want to put, I actually did like Mark Bowles. He's on the trilogy, the third full like 10 album. I guess I'll take Mark Bowles third if you want to put him ahead of Matt Slevin, maybe. But
okay.
But yeah, no, we're not gonna put those guys ahead of Joe Lynn Turner and Jeff Scott Soto. We're not insane here.
So Chastity Crawley says, Yngwie is one that I only heard about because of a track Petrucci did covering something Yngwie did. Man, Chastity, you haven't heard of Yngwie? I thought everybody heard of him. If you're into guitar stuff, he's a total shredder, but again, he is neoclassical shred. Excuse me, and it gets a little extreme for me at times. So before I get into my last two, which I have a hard time ranking because I'm going to get into Kale's comment. He's officially
say that's coming next.
Yeah, Kale is being banned from the chat permanently for this one. His number 2 of 1997 is Reload. I'm not deluded enough to believe that this belongs higher in Metallica's rankings, but it's one of the first albums I ever heard of theirs, and I have a real soft spot for these songs. Kale, you are wrong. Kale, that album is pure dog shit. It's fucking garbage. I rarely disagree with somebody this heavily on something, but Reload is trash. It's B-sides from a shit record. So, Kale, that is, ooh, man.
I have a real soft spot for Charles Manson. It was the first serial killer I was introduced to.
Nice. Oh, my God. Yeah. Oh, Johan Alexanderson, speaking of Yngwie, yep. He says, I like Yngwie a lot, but the best track by him is when he's drunk on an airplane yelling, "You've released the fucking fury." Yep. That's one of the best sound bites ever. Or in the Pantera home video part 1, where he's like, "Get those fucking donuts out of my face." It's awesome. Oh, my God. And Metal Person J, thank you. We'll address this for a second. He says, since we brought up Reload, do we wish to address Jason's recent, he's talking about Jason Newsted. Jason Newsted's recent glue-huffing stupidity, where he says, Lars Ulrich is a great drummer because of business acumen and quote-unquote knows good geography. Yeah, we can bring that up. I love Jason Newsted, and he's a fucking idiot for saying that. I don't give a shit if he knows business. He also tried to defend his drumming, too. Mike Portnoy did that recently as well, and I'm sorry, the guy's a piece of shit on drums, and people need to stop that. Say, if you want to say he's a great businessman and a great hype man, then you're dead on. He's one of the best to ever do it. But as a drummer, he's fucking absolute garbage. Absolute garbage. Oh, man. So, Chastity and Sean Faust are going at it about Octavarium in the chat, so we still have to do Octavarium in the Octagon. That's going to happen. All right. So, I have 2 left, and I'm not sure what order to put them in because one is a live record. So, I'll save that one to last. So, but this was so close, I couldn't tell which would be my number 1. This one is a debut album. It was released on April 15th of 97, and to this day is one of my favorite records. The opening track I've played live many times, and it is, oh my God, makes your hands bleed. It hits so hard. This record fucking rules, and if you disagree, you are completely wrong. This might be the most underrated band on the planet. I'm going with Seven Dust's self-titled debut album. This record just absolutely kicks ass. Black is one of my all-time favorite songs. We played that a bunch in APG, and it's just, oh my God. You just, oh my God. So good. Bitch is phenomenal. Terminator, Too Close to Hate, Prayer, Speak, Will It Bleed? I mean, Seven Dust is so criminally underrated. It's not even funny. They are phenomenal live. They are just like, even a bad, Seven Dust like pizza, even a bad record's still good. There's enough on there. You're like, okay, this is cool. And this record is just, oh my God, I love this Seven Dust record so much. I go back to this one frequently, and it's just, you know, if you want to see some kick-ass live stuff, I don't remember what it's called, but they did like it was a live DVD from the first tour and stuff, and it's in a little club, and they've got like, you know, like road cones and shit or something, like on the stage is made up all junky, and it's just them just absolutely kicking ass in front of like 1,000 people, and the energy is just, you can't beat the energy of that thing. I mean, basically, John started out back like off the stage, like he was going to come through the crowd to get to the stage and start singing, and the crowd was rocking so hard they couldn't get him through the crowd. So Black starts, and he's not even on the stage. He got up there like the middle of the first verse because people were just rocking so hard the security couldn't push him through the crowd fast enough. So you got to look that one up on YouTube or find a DVD of it, but it is absolutely killer. So if you guys have not heard the first Seven Dust record, or you're not into Seven Dust, man, oh man, you don't know what you're missing. The first Seven Dust record is brilliant. It's brilliant. I love it. And I know you're a Seven Dust fan, Brian, so what do you think about the first record?
I am, but full disclosure, I did not get into the band until Memory, I think, which to me is an absolutely brilliant masterpiece of an album.
Memory? I don't think there is a record called Memory.
Is it Memory? Wait, I'm messing it up. What's the one that has Karma on it?
Oh, Karma. That's Next.
No, it's not Next. It's the one after it.
Oh, Cold Day Memory. Cold Day
Memory.
Okay.
Sorry.
There you
okay.
go. Yeah,
I messed it up. Yeah, I absolutely love that album. I tried to go back, and this is the problem, is when you go backwards like that, I think the vocals are absolutely horrible. I can't stand them at all. But I love
on the first record, really.
Yeah, there's no melody. I mean, it's plenty of raw power and energy, and I appreciate what they're trying to do. But you know, I like what they grew into. I totally respect them as a band. Loved like Seasons. Some of the newer stuff is okay. But Cold Day of Memory, absolutely. I think that's a masterpiece. And that Time Travelers, where they strip acoustic, that is so cool.
Yep.
Everything on there is great. But yeah, this one, it's just kind of hard when you start. It's very similar, but you're not a fan of this band, but it's very similar to Kill Switch Engage. So if you try to go back and listen to that first album, it doesn't sound. They grew into this melodic machine, you know.
Okay.
But you know, I appreciate the energy and the newness, and nobody sounds like them, so I'll go with you on that part of it.
Yeah, I love it. In the comments, I'm not even going to bring them up because Creed blows ass. So just stop. Any of you guys that are saying that you, I watched Scott Stapp walk into a door, a push door. He thought it was a pole, and he had a broken arm and damn near broke his arm again. I watched that happen 3 feet from my face here in Cleveland. So fuck that guy. I actually have a personal story about him from a friend of mine who worked for their fan club. He was a dick. David Condren, good to see you, man. He says, hey, guys, I just binged every episode over the last 2 weeks at work. Love the cast. You guys are doing an amazing job. Thanks for all your efforts. Well, thank you for the kind words, man, and thank you for checking out the show. We're glad you're enjoying it, man. We really appreciate that.
Wow, Dave Condren's allowed to sleep at work, apparently. If you binged 2 full episodes.
Oh, my God. There was something else I was going to bring up in here, but, yeah, the Creed thing is like, man, ugh. The Creed hate is just, I don't know. I just never got into that band, and it was, I don't know.
I really like the second album, Human Clay.
All right.
There's some things from the first album I like now, but I don't think that they stand up, and they're kind of like, you know how you're into something, and you're like, I don't know about this now, you know?
Yeah. I'm just not.
There's
I'm just not a fan, dude. I'm just not.
There's no defending the singer and how he used quote. I guess used to be. I don't know.
Yeah.
People.
He was a dick, and it was one of my someone I used to be friends with. She was kind of high up in their fan club, and she saw him just absolutely destroy a fan that was just so excited to meet him, and he just absolutely crushed her hopes. It's like what?
Well,
so
yeah, there's certain people that don't know how to handle, when they're put in that position. They just mentally not capable of doing it. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying it's a fact.
Sure. Well, real quick story about Seven Dust, since you mentioned time travelers and bonfires, and then we'll get to your last one and my last one. So when that record came out, I want to say it was 2014, and if it wasn't, it was being recorded in 2013. Well, my wife and I had gotten engaged, and we were figuring out what to do with our reception, what are we going to do, how are we going to book it, whatever. Well, we said we're not going to spend over $10,000. We're setting the ceiling at $10,000. We're not doing one of these $30,000 weddings. It's fucking stupid. Well, at the time, Seven Dust was crowdfunding the Time Travelers EP, and you could go on there and bid on different things. Like, if I remember right, I want to say like for $200 you'd go sit in the studio with them for a day and then have like a barbecue dinner. And they would have some chef barbecue, and you could sit in the studio with the band and eat barbecue. I was like, holy shit. Well, the biggest donation that you could make was $10,000. And for the $10,000, Seven Dust would come to your town and play a private concert for you. And for about a 2-week period, my wife Stephanie and I were seriously considering taking our $10,000 for our reception and paying it to Seven Dust and having our reception be a potluck, and Seven Dust is playing our wedding reception. Like, it was like, oh my God. Like we for 2 weeks we're like, do we do this? Like, how awesome would it be? People like, holy shit, John and Steph had Seven Dust as their wedding band. Like that just sounded so fucking cool. And then eventually we're like, oh yeah, but like our older family and friends, like they're not going to get it. And we, so we eventually like, yeah, we should probably come down off of that. But we were seriously considering that. And I already have the coolest wedding reception that I've ever been to. But if we'd had Seven Dust, I think no one could top that. You imagine going to a wedding, be like, yeah, okay, we got a band. All right, you just got a wedding band? Well, not any wedding band. It's Seven Dust. So that's my little Seven Dust story for that record. But Sean Faust, how close did you really get to having Seven Dust play? Sean, that's a true story. My wife and I spent about 2 weeks considering making the wedding. Like, we spent all of our $10,000 on Seven Dust, and then have people bring shit as a potluck instead of giving us gifts. That was our idea. So, all right, so you have one left and I have one left. What is the last one on your list?
Wait, I'm just trying to picture this. So, like, hey, could you guys play Angel, Son, and Enemy? Where do you want me to put this mac and cheese?
But come on, wouldn't that be awesome? Wouldn't you still be
dude.
telling? Wouldn't you still be telling that story? I went to my buddy's wedding reception and Seven Dust was playing.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, come on.
Okay, I lied earlier on my math. I guess I have 2 left, so I'll do one. Then you got your last one. I got one more.
Okay.
So I have the second album from the Foo Fighters.
Okay.
Color and the Shape. Full disclosure, was not really a big fan of the first album. I don't really know that I consider that, that was more like Dave just sort of, locking himself in and doing this thing sort of all by himself.
Did he do that on both on the first and second record, or just the first one?
I think just the first one. I'm not totally sure on that, but this was definitely, he found his sound and vision on this album, and I'm going to argue that there is no better band, and it kind of started with this album, of being able to mix clean and distorted guitars off and on throughout songs. Like it, I don't know. I just think it's a masterpiece of the way he can do this. Like some examples: My Poor Brain, Up in Arms. Of course, they had the mega hits: Monkey Wrench, Everlong, My Hero. But I love this album, and most of their stuff in this kind of period is just there's an immediacy and an urgency to the riffs and the songs and the vocals, and he does this thing on some songs. I call it it's almost like a space rock type thing. This song called February Stars, where they get these guitars just kind of spinning around each other with echoing and these different little lines interchanging in and out, and it's so melodic but he manages to tighten them up into 3.5, 4.5 minute just little pieces of music, and it's really kind of where they sort of found this is what the Foo Fighters are eventually gonna be 90% of the time when they fire up a song. I'm not super thrilled with, I would say, the last 2 albums, but anything up till there all kind of to me fits neatly in this color and the shape and what they were going for and what they became.
Unmuting my mic would help.
Yeah.
Foo Fighters is a weird band for me. I love the hits, and the album tracks I really don't like. I've tried, this is a band I tried to get into because I'm like, oh man, I love My Hero, I love Learning to Fly, I love Monkey Wrench and Everlong and all these other songs, and I went and listened to a full record. I'm like, what is this other trash? I do not like the album tracks at all. And it bums me out because Dave Grohl's got a cool voice. I think he's a great songwriter. And I was mentioning earlier about, musicians that I don't listen to because they're dicks. Well, to me, Dave Grohl is one of the coolest guys on the planet, and he's so appreciative of the history of music and, all those different things. So I really want to be a fan of his music. I just really don't like anything but the hits. So it bums me out, man. It really bums me out.
Well, the good news is that you can fill about 2.5 hours with that because they've got enough hits.
Yeah, true. I mean, did they? Have you seen them live before?
I have not seen them live. I know Bob's seen them a few times. I have a bunch of friends that go see him almost every time. I mean,
okay.
they're always. I mean, everything I've ever seen online, they're just great live. I mean, it's weird. I sort of understand what you're saying. Like, I'm not this massive fan that has to go see them live. I more have an appreciation for what they do, and just especially when I hear this stuff from, I don't know, late '90s to the last album I really dug of theirs was Wasting Light. I thought that was amazing. That was the one where he went and bought a full analog thing and put it in his house and did everything. Nothing was done using Pro Tools or any kind of computers at all or anything. I just thought that was an amazing sounding record.
Is that the one that they kind of documented a little bit in in the Foo Fighters documentary?
Yep, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, I remember
that. They brought back was Novoselic, the bass player, to play on a song.
Yeah.
At the end there, and but yeah, it's just such a warm sounding album, and I don't know, he's just such a driven guy, and again, I kind of go back to the Ben Folds thing, like these songs that he puts together and these chord progressions and these changes. This is not 1-4-5. Your basic pop rock type thing. I mean, there is a lot of complexity going on into the thought process that goes into this that you just don't realize. It might be easy to pick up a guitar and play it, but it's still a very complex type of thing, especially the way the two guitars are constantly kind of going in and out. Like I said, there's a lot of clean and a lot of distorted going on at the same time or trading off. And, the drumming is always great. And the bass playing too, man. It's just a great musical experience, I think, most of their albums.
Yeah, again, it's one of those things where I know it's good, and I know it's extremely well written, and the musicianship is really solid, and I just don't get into it. And it's like there's a few bands like that for me where it's like I really wish I could get into them because I totally respect everything they do, and then the package comes together and I'm just like it just
I know what it is. I know what it is for you 100%. It's the guitars are not quite heavy enough. That's what it is.
Well, I don't mind that. It's just
no, but I bet if the same songs there was just a little bit chunkier and heavier, I bet you'd dig it more. Because to me, that is what Wolfgang Van Halen. 75% of his foundation is Foo Fighters. It's written all over his face.
Yeah,
but it's got more of a melody to it, and it's heavier.
Well,
that's why it's great.
But the songs that I heard were just weirder. I'm like, what the hell is this? It's like, at least Wolfgang's songs they go somewhere. It's sounds like
they're more pop oriented for sure. Yes, definitely. He's a poppier, more melodic version of, but the guitars are heavier too. So
okay,
that's my theory on Wolfgang Van Halen.
All right, so I have one left. You have one left. I'm going to let you go first because I'm excited about this
last
one.
Word, don't you?
I do, and I have a feeling it's going to be heavier than yours. So,
all right.
Is this officially your number one? Would this be your favorite non-Dream Theater release of '97 or favorite release of '97?
You know what? If I actually was to rank them, I probably would put this number one. I don't think there was a more anticipated album than Oasis' "Be Here Now." I remember when the video came out for the opening song. Do you know what I mean? This opening song.
Okay.
I mean, there was more hype around this album than anything I think that came out that time. And I first saw the video, and there's all these helicopters going around. I was absolutely blown away. To date, it's still one of my favorite album opening tracks of all time. It's got that stoner rip and groove. It just gets stuck and buried into the back of your skull. You get lightheaded. You know, I mean, Liam Gallagher has got that trademark. It's that nasally impression. It's John Lennon on a 12-day bender of JD and no filter camels. You know,
that's an excellent way to describe it. Yeah,
and especially there's another song there called "All Around the World." He sounds like that. You know, this great song, "Getting Better." The smash radio ballad was "Don't Go Away."
Okay,
and the title track on this, it's like, forget the Beatles. You know, this is the Stones. I mean, this is, you could picture Mick Jagger just like sashaying all over the stage during this. You know, they're able to sort of mix in that, you know, when they go to their sort of rockin', more roots type thing of a Stones meets Beatles, you know, 90s on acid kind of thing. And I don't know, man, there was just something massive and huge about this band, the way they were able to make these songs that are really kind of small songs sound so ginormous. And I don't know if that was all based on the production or just his voice, but I just absolutely love his voice on this stuff. And I think it's a great album.
Cool. Yeah, I'm not an Oasis fan, but I will say that I gained an appreciation for them based on that documentary that they released. Like that was really, really good. So I went and I looked into some of their stuff. I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. So I think the record before this one is the one with all the big hits on it, isn't it? Or is what, Morning Glory or something? Like I'm not familiar with
that has a few more.
Yeah, that's with what Champagne Supernova and Wonderwall and stuff like that.
Yep.
And but yeah, I mean, great songwriters. Man, oh man, you want to talk about a couple of dicks. I mean, I don't know how as brothers they just destroyed each other. I mean, that band just was owning the world.
Yep.
And I mean, could you imagine if that band did a reunion tour right now? Holy God. You want to talk about a stadium tour, but yeah, I mean, for, you know, again, I think this is a band that I appreciate that I never really hugely got into. I mean, his voice definitely is unique. I think you nailed it. Like, you know, a 10-day bender of JD and you know, cigarettes and stuff. But you know, in his enunciation, it's like I find myself every time I sing Champagne Supernova live, I have to go, with a champagne supernova in the sky. Like,
Yep.
it just, I can't help it. It's like you have to do it.
You have to say "this guy" too.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Like point to some dude.
Right. Oh my God, that's fantastic. But yeah, so I mean, definitely great band, great songwriters. And it all happened like in a kind of a short window for them. I mean, so to write stuff that's that immediate, that quickly, I think was really impressive. So, you know, again, not a band that I could say I'm a fan of, but I like some of the songs, man. It's definitely a good band. So I saved a live record for last. And again, I wasn't sure if I should put Seven Dust number one or this one number one, but because this one's heavier, I don't think there's any better way to close out our lists than one of my favorite live records of all time by one of the greatest metal bands, to me, one of the greatest bands of all time, released on July 29th of 1997 by the heavy metal version of Van Halen, to me, Pantera, official live 101 proof. It's like, what are you going to say? It's fucking Pantera. They're amazing. And this is a great chronicle of the band at that time. Unfortunately, it was, you know, on the Trendkill tour. It wasn't like, you know, something like, you know, off the the Far Beyond Driven tour when they were a little more on their game, and Phil wasn't, really getting into his drugs and stuff like that. But awesome set list, just great sound, and my God, for people that never got to see him live, I can vouch for it that this record is a very accurate representation of what you would have seen back then had you gotten to see him, when they were still around. So I love this album. I was really pumped when they put out a live record. Pantera, like I say, is probably I always waffle because I know it's obviously Van Halen and Dream Theater, and then the other three are Anthrax, Queensryche, and Pantera for me in my top 5. So, but I think consistency, Pantera just, goddamn, and I love Dimebag so much. I love Dimebag, and to me, what's always been cool, like I said, Dime and Vinny, the last thing they would say to each other before kicking into a set was Van Halen. They would like fist bump or high five, whatever, and go Van Halen. Like they always wanted to be like Eddie and Alex, and they're Dime and Vinny, and I think they achieved it because, this new tour, they're selling out arenas and they're doing all these festivals, and Dime and Vinny aren't even there, and people are still paying out the nose. I'm going to see them for an entire weekend at the end of July. It's based on the power of the songs. The songs are so goddamn good that even without the two guys that made them that great, it's still, people are still like out there paying to see it. So that's as Van Halen as it gets to me. So for me, Pantera is the shit, and I love this album. So I don't know how big of a Pantera guy you are, if you like the live record, but what do you think about 101 Proof Live?
Well, I actually saw this tour. I guess you were there too. I don't know if we talked about this at the Jar.
Yep.
This is Sebastian Bach, I think, opened.
Yeah.
Okay. Was Anthrax on this one too with John Bush?
Yeah, that was the show that they were absolutely just rip-roaring hammered.
So it was all three. Okay. And I was rip-roaring hammered too. Almost at the very top of that. Isn't that like almost like a gym there? Like the seat.
Yeah, it's like a basketball arena.
Yeah, the bleachers. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so where were you sitting? Were you like, because there's like the left side, right side. It's not a bowl. It's left side, right side. It's like a square. So there's left side, right side, and the back, and the front side was the stage. So I was in the back, up high. Where were you?
So I believe I was on the left side, pretty far up high, but it was literally like almost like a wooden bleacher type thing. I think
that's exactly what it was. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure, because this was probably one of the most. I don't know if I want to use the word drunk, but that's probably the word I should use before I actually got to a concert. Because I never used to do that, because I was like, first of all, driving, A, and then B, it's like I want to enjoy the show. But, man, I went with a buddy of mine, and we'd started out in Cleveland, and by the time we got there, well, man. But that was absolutely, but I thought Pantera sounded great. It's the only time I ever got to see him. I know nothing at all about this album, but if it's got the set list and the stuff that we saw, then I guess I'd totally dig it.
Wow. Yeah, dude, you definitely have to check this one out. It is, oh my God, it's great. It's just great. It's great. You can't really tell. I mean, there's fade-ins and fade-outs here and there, but it is like best performances from different cities. I think like 3 or 4 different shows. But I mean, it's just, man, oh man, it just totally, God, it's so good. Like I said, they pull out some really cool stuff, like kind of deeper tracks from Trendkill, which is cool. It's not just, I mean, they have War Nerve and stuff like that, but like they pull out like Sandblasted Skin and everything. It's pretty cool. There's a comment up here. Metal Person J says, official 101 Live is awesome, but that Domination Hollow mishmash is dumb and should have been replaced with Primal Concrete Sledge, which was a god tier live staple. Well, I think that's why they did that, though, dude. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of that mashup either, Metal Person J, but I think Primal Concrete Sledge, I think they'd probably beaten into the ground at that point. So I don't know if that's the one you would replace it with, but if you're going to replace it with something for me, and let's say pull off Cowboys, I would say let's do Heresy. Let's hear the Trendkill era Pantera do Heresy. That'd be awesome to me. So, oh Jesus, Giovanni Palaya, he shows up and, oh Giovanni, what are you doing? It's good to see you. But he says, don't forget about Here in the Now Frontier. He says, even though the captain was starting to let go of the wheel, it's still a worthy album. No, Giovanni, no. No, that record is terrible. Oh.
See, I still think like the first 3 songs are okay.
Stop. Just stop. It's terrible. It is awful. Man. Oh, Circle J, man. Good to see you, dude. He says, joined late, but Megadeth Cryptic Writings, I probably listened to that CD once a day for a while. Yeah, we had that one in here. I did. Brian did not, but I did shit on the guitars. Brian says the guitars are fine. I say the guitars sound like crap.
I had Cryptic Writings in mine. I told you it was.
That's right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking of a different one. But the guitars, yeah. Ugh. All right, I'm going to call out Gibson Les Paul. Gibson Les Paul either has like the best take or the shittiest take. That guy has no in-between takes on the show. He says, saw Pantera twice. At best. Saw Pantera with Morbid Angel. Much preferred Morbid Angel. Gibson, you are high. Pantera live was the best live band you could see. They absolutely crushed everyone. They were amazing. How can you say they were Oh, my God.
Did I ever tell you my Morbid Angel story?
No.
So when I lived around Cincinnati area, I was in a cover band there. Our bass player, his brother, actually became the second singer, Steve Tucker, and played bass for Morbid Angel.
I know that name. Okay.
Yeah. And we got to go to one of the shows. It was maybe Bogarts. You've probably been to Bogarts in Cincinnati, no?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think they played there, and it was pretty cool. Like these cool seeing like their tour bus and stuff. But man, I don't know. I wanted to like because he had just joined or whatever, and he was on whatever the newest album they had at the time, and I wanted to like it so bad, and I just I don't know, man. I don't know what Morbid Angel, what that's supposed to be, but it's not for me. Let's put it that way.
You're so politically correct.
Yeah.
It is not for me. Well, I will tell you, man, I'm going to be non-politically correct and say, Gibson, you're an idiot. Like, good God, Pantera not being as good as Morbid Angel and Pantera being alive. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, they just stood there. They didn't get into it all.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Oh, hey, I win the show today.
There he goes. Said Brian Gibson Les Paul says Brian had Yngwie facing the Animal. Brian wins the show today. All right. Well, Metal Person Jay says that Pantera beat Walk and Cowboys from Hell into the ground too. Yeah. I think that's one of those things, like, those songs are so goddamn big. They're the ones you unfortunately have to play.
Oh, yeah. You can't not play those. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, that's something we could talk about because we're going to do deep dives into the other Pantera records coming up here in the next few months. So we'll have to, maybe we'll like try and do like a Pantera set list, or when we do the deep dives, like, we got to hear this one live.
I mean, that's like Dream Theater not playing Descent of the Nomax. Come on. You can't they can't go out like that. Jeez.
You always bring up Descent of the Nomax. You just love that song.
I do.
Man, oh man. So sidebar conversation, we'll get out of here. So, man, that Octavarium and the Octagon in the chat has been going crazy. Chastity and Sean Faust and Kale, and they really want to get into the song Octavarium, man. They want to kind of go at each other. And I know you're like, I'm sitting that one out. So that'll be me as the referee.
Okay. You gotta wear one of those referee shirts and get a whistle and stuff.
I totally should. I think it's a great topic, man. It's like, we're busy doing our show, and they're having their own little conversation here on the side. Like, man, it's gonna be cool. Yeah, Chastity Crowley. Oh, come on, Brian. Brian doesn't think we can pull off a whole episode bullshitting about one 24-minute song, but Brian would be wrong. It's like a mini fan hangout, dude.
Hey, there's a first time for everything. Me being wrong.
Right. So Kale says he's in. We just got to get Adam Rishog on board, and we'll make it happen. As of right now, though, Brian, are we sticking to our show schedule? Because we already have the next episode laid out. And
well, that's up to you.
I'm in if you're in. I'm very excited to talk about what we are going to talk about on the next record, because my cover band, our bass player is quitting, and we are auditioning a guy this coming Friday whose hero is the bass player of the band that we are going to be deep diving on our next episode, that being Billy Sheehan of Sons of Apollo, and we are going to be digging into the Psychotic Symphony record. I've been looking forward to this since we started the show because you and I how many times have we talked about our trip to Battle Creek, Michigan, to go see Sons of Apollo at that little tiny place. But yeah, so we're gonna be digging into Psychotic Symphony by Sons of Apollo. So I am really looking forward to that one, dude, because I still think these records don't get talked about enough, and I really hope they do a third one. I know the odds are very long, but I'm hoping they do, man. I absolutely love that album. So,
well, speaking of Billy Sheehan, Johan Alexanderson is seeing Billy live tomorrow with the Winery Dogs. Awesome.
Very cool. All right, Johan. Johan, let us know where you're at. Like, are you in, because I think they just started their California tour, or are they still in Europe? So let us know where you're at, Johan. So let's see where you're going to see the show. Kale's excited. Says, "Ooh, Psychotic Symphony." Yeah, it's a great record, and I'm really surprised that people don't talk about it more. I've always been surprised that it wasn't more, that project wasn't better received by Dream Theater fans. I really thought it would have gained some more traction, but Johan says he's in San Diego. All right, a whale's vagina.
That's what San Diego actually means.
Yeah, San Diegans. Look, Gibson, what is with you tonight? Gibson Les Paul says, first Sons of Apollo album was decent. No, it was awesome. Second was pretty awful. No, the second one might be even better than the first. God damn it, Gibson.
Hold on there. I know. Let's not get crazy.
Oh.
You're both insane for those two takes.
Dude, really? You like the first one better than the second one. I guess we'll have to discuss that when we dig into MMXX later in the year.
Yeah.
But yeah, our next show, guys, will be in 2 weeks. It is going to be, let me think of the dates here. It'll be June 1st. It will be Thursday, June 1st at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, and the cmsnetwork.com. And we will be doing a deep dive into Sons of Apollo's debut record, Psychotic Symphony. Brian, this was a blast, man. We were worried about having enough, stuff to fill the whole episode because we were having a hard time coming up with records. But here we are, an hour and a half in, and I think we did it. So.
Yeah, we did a lot better than I thought. When I first started kind of looking through the list, I was like, oh, man. But I think we both had a good mix, and I can't really argue anything that either of us picked, honestly.
No. And it was one of those rare times where, we had different stuff. I mean, we only had one crossover album, where usually we've got a bunch. So,
well,
I thought,
in full disclosure, I probably would have picked the Pantera, but I knew you were going to pick it, so...
I'm so transparent.
Well, no, I mean, it's just obvious, and I'm like, I also knew that you had listened to it since the day it came out too. So I'm like, it's kind of stupid for me to pick it now. So
yeah, but I mean, you picked some great stuff, man, and we were kind of on two different sides of the, two different sides of the fence here. I had a lot of heavy stuff, you had a lot more melodic stuff. It was pretty cool. So, all right, guys, on that note, we're gonna take off for tonight. But all you guys in the chat, Chastity Crawley, Sean Faust, Gibson Les Paul, Cale McLeish, Giovanni Palaya, Johan Alexanderson, Circle J, good to see you, man. Metal Person J, all you guys, thank you so much for hanging out for another episode of Talking Into Infinity. Hopefully we see you guys in 2 weeks. Again, it is going to be Thursday, June 1st at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, the cmsnetwork.com. If you are on YouTube, make sure you click that like button, click that subscribe button, smash the notification bell. And again, if you want to check out the audio version of the show, just Google Talking Into Infinity podcast. So until 2 weeks from now, when we start digging into, one of the best prog records ever, in my opinion. I am Brian. He is John. And as always, guys, Carpe Diem.